All right, let's get you some free money from grants. Yes, there's plenty of money out there, more than's ever even applied for in the grant system that you could tap into right now. But in order to successfully get it, you have to know how the grant system works, the best sources to get the grants, why these grants exist, and have a roadmap to success. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you right now during this training. You're going to walk out of this with a proven roadmap to success to be able to secure free money from the grant system. We got a lot to cover, so let's dive in. So first of all, if you're skeptical about free money, I get it. I would be too. And that let's just start right there. Grants aren't designed just to give out a bunch of free money because people may want it. The grant system is designed for us as entrepreneurs because it incentivizes something. And usually there's a few things that grants are designed to incentivize. One thing is grants are designed to incentivize growth in a sector. Maybe it's energy, maybe it's technology, for example. Another thing is grants are designed to incentivize growth in a geographic area, maybe a town or a community, maybe a county, maybe a state, for example. Another thing is grants are designed to incentivize basically underserved audiences and open the door for them to make it easier to be able to access capital. So for example, if we look at African-American entrepreneurs versus Caucasian entrepreneurs, African-Americans statistically have a way harder time getting business financing, as unfair as that is. So there are grants out there specifically for African-Americans to help make it easier for them to access the financing that they should be able to access just as easily as somebody that's Caucasian is. So these are some of the main reasons that grants really exist, to incentivize these different things. So for example, being from Indiana, I now see that there's these wind farms everywhere. They weren't there when I grew up, they're there now. And that comes from a lot of grant money, right? So the state and even the federal government is being able to give this grant money to be able to build these wind farms because it produces low cost, affordable energy for the state. So now that's an example of using a grant to incentivize growth in a sector, which is energy through wind, and then also in a geographic area, such as the actual state of Indiana. So grants have these incentives, and that's why they exist. It's why it's possible for you to actually tap in and get this free money. And yes, it is more than possible. As a matter of fact, a lot of the grant money that's available right now for you to get is not ever going to be taken. Nobody even knows about it, so nobody's taking actions to actually get it. So how do you get it? Well, let's start with the types of grants that are out there. So there's really three main types of grants that are out there. The first and biggest section of grants is grants from the federal government. I mean, the federal government is the biggest distributor of free money through grants than all other sources combined. So that's where you really want to start. A great place to start is grants.gov. So if you go to grants.gov, then you'll be able to access all the federal grants, and you'll be able to kind of narrow down your search based on the industry that you're in, based on the geographic area that you're in, and you can do some research and start doing a lot of selecting to be able to narrow down the best grants for you. And once you've narrowed them down, it's a matter of looking at each one of those to see the one that's the best fit for you. Now, the next type of grant you want to look at are grants from communities, local grants, state grants. And you can get this at Grant Watch. So Grant Watch kind of works like grants.gov, but it's on a local or state or a smaller level. So now you're able to come in and you're able to find grants in your community and grants in your state. These are easier to get than the federal grants because not as many people are applying for them. So when we look at the knowledge of grants, a lot of people just don't know what you're learning right now. They don't even know this is out there. They don't think about it as a viable funding option. And when they do, then they're going to grants.gov or a federal source to get that money. But very, very, very small percentage ever gets down to the local state level. So there's a lot less people applying for this money. And so it's easier to get. Obviously, a lot less money there to have been gotten, the same as federal grants, right? There's a lot more money in federal grants than local grants, but it's easier for you to get as well. The third type of grant is through private or publicly owned companies. So these grants come from trusts, some of them come from nonprofits, some of them come for-profit companies to incentivize potentially innovation in that industry. So here's an example. Apple and FedEx are two examples. So they have well-known grants. And if you look at Apple, well, their grants are designed to incentivize innovation in the tech space, right? They want to be able to bring in outside people through grants and give them money and incentivize them to actually put their brain power to work to potentially create technology that even Apple didn't think about, that Apple can then adopt and be able to use to grow their company bigger, right? The same thing comes with FedEx. FedEx has grants out there and they try to do the same thing, right? They're looking for outside people, thinking outside the box, people not in the organization that actually can be able to produce solutions that make shipping easier, shipping more reliable. And again, they can take some of these ideas and then they can adopt them in their company and potentially save or make millions or billions of dollars from these ideas. So these publicly or privately owned companies also oftentimes put this grant money out there because it's like them basically funding think tanks out in the world of people that bring them great ideas. And then this helps them adopt these ideas and be able to add massive amounts of money to their bottom line. So those are the three types of grants you're basically going to find. We're going to find the biggest level of federal grants, and we're going to come down to a smaller level of state, community, local grants. Then we're going to find the other level, which really comes from privately and publicly owned companies. So how do you find the right one for you? Well, as you now know, grants really heavily focus on two things: the industry that you're in and the geographic area that you're in as well. So if you just start there, that's going to help you tremendously. You want to go to Grant Watch, you want to go to irs.gov, and then you also want to do just a Google search based on the industry that you're in to see what privately held or privately distributed grants are out there as well. If you're doing those kind of searches, then you're going to narrow down the best grants for you to actually apply for. Now, once you've done so, well, the next step is to prepare a grant proposal. And a grant proposal is different based on every one that you individually apply for. Don't get me wrong. If you create a proposal for one grant, there's a really good probability you could use 50 to 80% of that content for another grant proposal. You might have to move things around, subtract things, add things. But the hardest work is always going to be in the first 1 to 3 grants you apply for. That's where you're going to have to start from scratch with those grant proposals. So again, you're going to look and find the grant that's right for you. And then it's going to give you the specific requirements of what they want. They're going to even tell you kind of who they want to reward their grant for, the kind of applicant that has the best chance of potentially winning. And they're also going to give you a list of requirements of what they really want to see. And this should be things that are honestly very similar to a business plan. So if you go to our training on YouTube, youtube.com/credit suite, you'll find more detailed videos that have grants and business plans that break down what to put in both of those, a grant proposal and a business plan proposal. But I can tell you a business plan is very similar. Grant proposals are really looking at the company, why the company exists, what you do, the problems that you solve, why you're better at solving that problem, your unique selling proposition of why you're better than anybody else at solving that problem. It really has a look on the financials. Do you have a grasp on the money that you need to be able to get the job done, for example? So if you look at a business plan and break it down section by section, if you had a really detailed business plan, it'll encompass a lot of the exact same things that you're going to need in a grant proposal. But again, a grant proposal is going to be very specific to the grant you're applying for, the things they're going to want to see in there, the information they're going to want to see in there, what they're looking for to reward you the grant is all going to change from grant to grant. And honestly, let's not make it more complicated. That is mainly what you need to know about grants. You know why they exist, the incentivization, right? The incentivizing, especially for a geographic area and especially for growth in an industry. You now know that the federal government, the state government of the state, and also on top of that, publicly owned and privately owned companies are the best sources of these grants. And now you know to narrow it down in large part based on your geographic area and also based on your industry. And especially if you're one of those underserved audience, entrepreneur, business owners, you could tell I don't edit this video because I'm tripping all over my words today. Then typically that even gives you an increased probability of being able to get approved. And finally, to read through each one of those descriptions to actually create a well-defined grant proposal based on what they're looking for. And you also know that if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find more training on that. And if you're following a model of a business plan, it's going to give you most of what you need to successfully get grants. So there you have it. That is everything you need to know about the grant system and how to successfully get grants. You need to consider this option for funding your business because this is money that you get that does not have to be paid back. And although it may not cover all the money that you need for your business, it'll at least cover a good percentage of it. And once you get this down and get good at finding grants and applying for grants, then you could do this over and over and over. Heck, you could even make a service to offer to help other people do this. But most importantly, once you get through your first, second, third, then it becomes easier and easier for you to be able to apply for grants and get even more money from the grant system. Hey, if you're looking for more ways to get money for your business, check out our guide on 27 killer ways to be able to fund your business. You can get it at creditsuite.com/27. That's creditsuite.com/2, 7. And if you got value from this training, make sure that you like and subscribe and keep your eye out for our next training. We're talking about more cool ways to get the money you need to start and grow your business.